Welcome to the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. Connecting you with trendsetters who are leading innovation in public safety and expert advice on growing your own post-law enforcement business. And now, your host, Adam Wills.
Welcome back to the Public Safety Innovators Podcast for episode 38. Today, we have a return guest on the show. In fact, Robert Whitaker was my guest for the very first episode, making him the PSI podcast OG. A lot has changed in the world of digital currency over the last 9 months since Robert was on the show. He revisits us today to talk about where the industry is heading and what you need to be aware of as an investigator. You'll also get to learn more about Robert's own copreneurial journey as he shares some of his most valuable lessons transitioning from law enforcement into running a successful business. If you haven't already listened to my first interview with Robert, I highly suggest you go back and take a listen. You can find it on your favorite podcast app or by heading directly to psi.chat/001. All right, here we go with my second interview with Robert Whitaker from the Blockchain Intelligence Group. Welcome to the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. Today, we have on the show an OG from the Public Safety Innovators Podcast, episode 1. We have Robert Whitaker back on the show today. So, Robert, we're going to talk today about some updates and changes in crypto investigations since the last time you were on. It's great to have you back.
Well, thanks for having me. It's nice to be back. I've watched the podcast grow over the days, and congratulations on the success so far.
Yeah, thank you. It's I appreciate you putting the confidence in me to come on and be episode 1 when the show wasn't known by anybody because it hadn't even been released yet. And so your episode on handling crypto investigations and all of the resources that your company, Blockchain Intelligence Group, offers is still one of the most highly listened to episodes of the show. So that was part of the reason I wanted to have you back on. Obviously, if you've been paying attention, there's been a lot going on in the crypto world since episode 1 came out back in the fall of last year. And so naturally, a lot of things have changed in the investigation side of crypto as well. So let's start there. What's changed and what do we need to look out for?
Well, I'll tell you what's changed, and it's been the massive driver behind cryptocurrency. When you look at the entire market cap itself and how many people are really becoming aware of crypto and wanting to invest. And of course, with that investment and the use of crypto, we're seeing a lot more investigations rolling in through our pipeline that we have on our website. And, you know, our forensic guys are just overworked. They're plugging along, but they're overworked because all this stuff coming in. And the issue with that is when we see more cases, that means law enforcement is seeing more cases being reported to them. So we have, you know, your patrol officer out there going to a call and the lady says, you know, someone stole 15 Bitcoins from me, and the patrol officer who likely knows of Bitcoin but doesn't quite understand the way it works and how, you know, what's going on here, takes a report, ends up on a detective's desk somewhere. A detective says, I have no idea. Zero, zilch, nada. I have no idea. Don't know how this works. Don't really care how it works. I got other cases to close. And, you know, it may get round filed. It may just get stuck in a drawer for a while. Or the final option there is they call us and say, can you help us with this case? And that's what we've been doing. We've been jumping on and helping with cases for law enforcement at the local level. I think the federal guys, you know, HSI, DEA, FBI, they have special groups that'll handle it. So, you know, if it's worth their while, essentially, they'll take on the case. But you know, we're really trying to help the small guy here, you know, the guy from the small department somewhere and wherever, and, you know, just trying to help him out. So that's what we've seen a massive increase, but we've also seen a couple of things in the crypto space that I'll tell you, when we talk about the crypto space, we talk about all kinds of new products coming along. So we talk about Bitcoin as being cryptocurrency 1.0. Ethereum, cryptocurrency 2.0. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing these hybrid decentralized applications, which is essentially what Ethereum is, coming out. So that's 3.0. Decentralized applications simply means that you can run a program with no human in the middle, which means that they're running these financial programs, decentralized exchanging back and forth, and then decentralized lending as well. So what we call DeFi. So DEX, DEX being decentralized exchange, and DeFi being decentralized finance. And you can essentially go to these sites, and if you stake enough coins with them and they like you, they take a little poll, they'll loan you money. One of the things we're looking at this morning was a company called TrueFi. I know the BSA officer over there. She's awesome, and they're working hard to stay on the good side of regulation. But they do offer these lending products, and like Plonex borrowed $2 million at like 12% and paid it back in 30 days or whatever it was. I'm just making that up, but that's a lot of money to borrow over a period of time with essentially not giving anyone your real name. They may know what business you're in, not doing any due diligence on you or anything, and you're getting $2 million sent to you. So there's an issue there.
How are these companies able to stand up the risk that's involved in that and not knowing exactly who they're actually lending this money to, and therefore not having a means of tracking it back down should the lendee default on that loan?
Yeah, so that's the problem right there, and that's the problem everyone's trying to solve is how do we solve that issue just so there's more of a credit risking score, a KYC process, which is know your customer for the audience out there, and what is the AML regime built around that kind of stuff. I mean, you could essentially stake a bunch of coins, borrow a bunch, which is clean money. You could stake it with dirty money essentially, and then you take that and wash out everything else. So. Money laundering can certainly handle there or be had there, and that's where we're in there. We're in there fighting the fight, trying to build analytics to go around this space so we can help out law enforcement, because that's the next evolution of white collar crime right there. That's white collar fraud.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not calling that fraudulent. I'm just saying that but
there's a huge opportunity for it.
There's a huge opportunity, and if you have a detective today just coming into white collar crime. The way they do investigations versus 10 years ago is going to be totally different in a couple of years. So once again, if you're in a department anywhere in the world and you have not heard of crypto, it's not because it's not happening. It's just hasn't been routed to the right places yet because the crime's happening. And you need to rethink how financial investigations are going to occur in the future.
Yeah, we actually made significant mention of that when we talked on episode 1. And in fact, one of the key takeaways that I put in the episode notes for episode 1 was that digital currency crimes are already happening in your area. And it really doesn't matter where you are in the country, whether you're a large city or a small rural area. I guarantee you crypto crimes or digital currency crimes are already happening in your area. It's just a matter of receiving the right training and awareness to be able to recognize them, look for them, and actually respond to and address them. So what has there been with these new companies that are coming out? So I kind of want to go back to that conversation we were just having, because as you know, I told you last time, I'm pretty ignorant about cryptocurrency and digital currency. And that really hasn't changed a whole lot since you and I talked, because I don't know, I just have a hard time getting into it. But as far as this generation 3 of digital currency goes, how is that different than Bitcoin as the originator? Is it just because of the lending part of it, or what is it that actually makes it different?
Right. So Bitcoin was imagined by Satoshi Nakamoto, the author of the white paper. It could be a person or it could be many people. We're not really sure, but as a payment system. So a peer-to-peer payment system, which means from me to you, basically. So you can do transactions with me. I can do transactions with you, and we don't need to know each other. It's trustless because it's confirmed on the blockchain through what they call encryption. And that makes it trustless. So you and I can not know each other and pass funds back and forth. So that's really internet money 1.0. Now, what has changed is we saw Ethereum launched shortly thereafter, and Ethereum was invented to be, think about it like the world's computer. So every node that's jumping in is applying power to the network. The network, you can then launch what we call smart contracts on it. And those smart contracts execute code, essentially. That's it. It's nothing too fancy. They execute codes, kind of if-then statements that allow things to happen naturally. And they use also what we call oracles, or sources of truth. So if I launched a code and I said, look, Adam, I'll tell you what, if the Braves win a game this year, I'm going to pay you $50. And I have Ethereum in my wallet, and you have a wallet as well with $50. And when the Oracle delivers the news to the contract, says, hey, the Braves won, it debits my account and credits your account without you and I being involved, essentially. Now, where does that come in to what we see today? What we see today is some very complicated contracts that are doing decentralized exchanging, which means that I can jump in with a wallet full of whatever tokens I want, as long as they're Ethereum based or ERC20 type tokens. And you say you have some too. Say you have some TrueFi and I have some, I don't know, Uniswap or whatever it is. And we say, you know what, we want to swap. And so what happens is we swap through this contract. There's no human involved there. We just swap currencies, right? I get yours, you give mine because you sold it to me and I sold mine to you. And it's back and forth. So that would normally take a lot of things in the real world. Well, it would take a money service business license potentially. You'd probably have to be regulated with KYC, with AML procedures, with all the BSA type stuff in there that you would need. Well, because of Ethereum and these decentralized applications, we're seeing ways around that. So technology is advancing, right? I think I probably said in our last conversation that, as fast as the regulators move, technology can move faster. And we're seeing that. In fact, we saw not CoinSquare, but Cointelegraph, or one of these online cryptocurrency news agencies, talk about an article where regulators yesterday in Congress were talking about, how do we regulate this? What do we do? What do we do? And they make a statement in there that says, well, Fintech is just moving too fast. So I think we just need an agency around the crypto space. So we have the SEC around securities, CFTC around consumer fraud. We need an agency that just deals with cryptocurrency, because it just does move too fast. You can't expect one guy, one gal, one person to be up there and know everything about crypto. It's just, it's impossible. I try, I read and watch and I do a lot of training, but just, you can't be on top of everything all the time.
Yeah. It's incredible to me. Like, I almost feel so overwhelmed by it that I don't even bother to try to research it. Because there's just so much information. And it seems like such a foreign concept for me. Maybe that makes me an old fart. I don't know, but it's certainly kind of difficult to wrap your head around. As far as the regulation goes, from a federal standpoint, what sort of measures do you think that they could take in order to regulate things in a way that would, in fact, be beneficial for law enforcement? But yet, I guess part of the attraction to crypto is that it's not overly regulated. So is there a happy medium there? What are the priorities?
Well, I've often said that if you're a regulating body, taking old regulation and stuffing crypto into it is probably not a great idea.
No.
Crypto just works different. It's another form of value, yes, and that's how we look at it when we're doing financial investigations, just another form of value. But that's a simplistic way of looking at things. When you look at how things actually work deep inside of crypto, there's certain little things that regulation in the fiat world just doesn't cover. So, what I thought about, again, is going back to, first of all, we need to launch its own regulatory body, something, an agency that deals with just crypto to stay on top of it and has stakeholders. The stakeholders be over OCC, stakeholders over SEC, stakeholders at CFTC, stakeholders in Congress itself, coming to the meeting, sitting down, really talking about what is crypto, why it works this way, and moving forward that way. Now, FinCEN along with FATF, or FATF along with FinCEN, or whatever order you want to put those two in, FinCEN has recently talked about the travel rule, and the travel rule, I think, is probably a good place to start. Now, you can certainly abuse the travel rule by saying that we're going to do all crypto over $250. I think that's a little extreme. But the travel rule coming in just like you would use it for fiat, seems like a reasonable thing to do. Now that we have ways that technology can solve the travel rule, what we're essentially stating is, or FATF essentially stated through FinCEN, is if you're going to send $3,000 worth of crypto outside the U.S. borders, then you should be as two organizations swapping the what we call the ownership of the accounts, right? So the ownership of the account gets swapped back and forth. Now, that is probably a good idea. That'll clear up a lot of the anonymity that comes along with crypto transactions. But there is still a way around it when you have personally held wallets, where that wallet is held by me on my phone, and I'm sending it to Adam. So there's no regulation between you and me. And there's a way we can solve that by asking wallet holders to make you sign up first before using your wallet, right? So if you're on an app, you have to log in essentially with your true information. Is that going to be a problem with PII transferred to a third party somewhere? Is there other legal issues in there? I'm sure there is somewhere, and that has to be hashed out. So a team full of lawyers, and what's going to happen? Nothing. But anyway, we'll try to get it hashed out.
So do you think it's a realistic possibility to assume that there comes a point in our lifetime where digital currency completely overtakes traditional currency, or is there always a place for traditional currency?
Well, I think there's probably always a place for digital currency based on the fact that some people just don't have access to, a phone line or an online device or something. But the world's changing. That's becoming more and more accessible depending on where you are. Certainly you look at Africa, and Africa has done a great job on getting cell phones out to all kinds of regions. You look at M-Pesa and stuff like that, payment systems like that, or value systems. So there's probably always going to be a spot for fiat. Like I need to pull out $1 somewhere and pay with $1. Here's the big deal though. Countries are looking at centralized digital currency or backed digital currencies, right? So government backed digital currencies. Now the Chinese have already come in. They've launched theirs already. It's in play in some places. The U.S. has not launched one. There's other regions that are looking at different stable coins to do this with. Now, I think you have to have that type of currency to stay competitive if you're a nation, because it's a new way to do payments. It's a new way to take your currency anywhere in the world and use it, certainly if it's a stable coin that's widely recognized. I have a little bit of concern when I look at government-backed digital currencies, in the sense that they may not be really digital currencies because they're centrally backed by a nation. And inside the blockchains, those blockchains could hold a lot of potential data about you and what you're doing. So if the government, if you have say a cryptocurrency called the US dollar, for instance, in your wallet, and I send it again to Adam, and I'm paying Adam, $5 for a Coke or whatever. But then in the blockchain somewhere, it tells back to the central government that I spent $5 on a Coke, and I give it to Adam. Well, what's the implication for that as far as them tracking my personal habits on a daily basis?
Yeah.
And
just
then
look
not
at
only
Facebook.
that, tracking where I'm at, right? So I drive to Utah or I drive out to California, and I send cryptocurrency essentially back to a friend of mine, and the IP information is attached to it and says, oh, he's in California. So now they're tracking where I'm at, who I'm sending money to, who I'm getting money from, all inside of one blockchain.
And
then
what you're buying.
And what I'm buying. And then who is allowed to buy that data from the government? Marketers, Facebook?
Yeah,
Apple,
exactly.
You name it. So I have a lot of concerns, privacy issues, concerns around centrally backed digital currencies, but we'll see how it pans out. I mean, we are going to get a chance to see how this pans out because it's coming.
Yeah. I have a lot of concerns about it too, and not real comfortable with it, if I'm honest. I don't really like the idea. If I could go back to a time where digital currency didn't exist, I would gladly go there personally.
Yeah, I kind of like reaching in my wallet, pulling out a $5 bill, right? It's totally anonymous.
Yeah.
Only me and the clerk. That's it.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we didn't get to spend a whole lot of time talking about the last time you were on the show, because we spent most of the time, I mean, it was a good I think we went over an hour that last time. Yeah, an hour and 12 minutes here as I'm looking at it. And we spent the bulk of that time, the large bulk of it, just talking about what we are right now in investigations and how crypto works and all of those things, which is obviously very fascinating. And I know a lot of people tune in for that. But also, we talked a little bit about your background and in how you went from being in law enforcement to starting your own business. And we didn't get to spend a whole lot of time on that. And so I'd like to spend a little bit more time on that on this episode, talking more about your copreneurial journey from law enforcement to running your own business. And you're obviously very successful. And I know that there are other copreneurs that listen to the show that could gain some insight and advice from you. And I wonder if we could chat a little bit more about that, share what your experience was, how you decided to actually leave law enforcement and what that transition experience was like for you.
Right. So I just like to clarify that the Big is a publicly traded company, so I don't own it. It's owned by the investors, and I was actually invited into this business by the founders at the time. So
Sure.
So I didn't start the business, but I certainly was invited in to help make the business or expand the business to what it is today. And I appreciate that offer from the founders. So they put a lot of trust in me, and I appreciate that. But going back to your original question is, how do you make the transition, and how did you get in over here? First of all, it takes a lot of courage. And I'm not trying to call myself courageous, because I'm not, but it takes a little bit of effort and thought to actually cut that cord with what you've known all your life, right? That's probably the biggest thing for law enforcement. And I told my wife when we started looking at this, I said, the difference between courage and stupidity is simply success. If you cut that line and you walk over somewhere else from what you've always known and done well at, and you succeed, all your friends are going to look at you, and all the people that you left behind look at you and go, that took a lot of courage. But if you do that and you fail, they're all going to say that was pretty stupid. There's a lot of things that go in the middle of that, but that's the difference between courage and stupidity is success. I was successful. So, it's good for me. Right. But I think what I had to learn is put on a business type hat. Law enforcement officers in general are very autonomous people. They know how to work alone, and they know how to work with teams as well. But, your basic standard officer does a lot of work by himself. I mean, he's on his own to, investigate, generally takes a partner now and then, but everything comes down to him and his case and how he wants to run it. So that's a good skill to have, is being able to work. The second skill is being able to work as a team and manage that team. And I think law enforcement officers are good at managing, because they have to manage lots of things. Certainly their own investigations, certainly scenes, right? You go to a horrible car crash scene. That first officer that arrives is essentially running that scene, and he's learned how to run or manage teams that way. So especially under crisis. So I think that's the second thing that law enforcement officers are going for them. And then I think critical thinking is something you have to do. How do I take what I'm doing and make a product that everyone needs to see and make it better? So, having the courage to do it, number one, is tough. Most officers at the end of the day say, I think I'm just going to stay where I'm at because it's safe. No one likes change, especially cops, right? You got to make it. You got to make a good jump over, get over that, and then make sure you're managing your teams well, putting everything together, and a good product at the end. Now we went public, so we're on the CSE and the OTCQX in the United States, and the Frankfurt Exchange as well. So I had to learn a lot of things I didn't know, essentially. I mean, a criminal justice degree does not prepare you for a financial markets degree. It just does not. So, but fortunately there is a lot of good places where you can get this education. So first of all, you can get OJT, right? So find yourself somebody who knows about this stuff and pick their brains. You can go to all kinds of online learning sites. I mean, courses taught by Yale and MIT and Harvard, all in capital markets and finance and stuff. And, you can take them for relatively little amounts of money, and they do make you better. Now, I'm not saying that's a substitute for a master's degree in business or anything, but it can certainly help you learn what you need to know to function inside of these business markets if you don't want to go back to school and get an MBA in something. And that's the difference there is, if you have a degree in criminal justice like I do, that doesn't prepare me to take a master's degree in business. I mean, I don't have a bachelor's in business, so how am I going to do that? So, you can definitely learn a lot, and I would highly recommend never ever stop learning. Just the other day, I took a class on R coding, right, on querying in R, which is a computer language. I took the MIT course on cryptocurrencies, even though I'm considered an expert in cryptocurrency. What did I do? I went and took the MIT course as well. So always make yourself better, and always continue the learning. And those are things that I would stress to anyone who wants to leave law enforcement and make the jump. Now, you and I have been there, Adam. We know what it's like when you leave. You kind of get this alone feeling like I don't have that no more, right? So every time you see a car on the side of the road with, a couple officers and people standing around, you're like, man, I miss those days, right? Those days are gone. Just accept it. Those days are gone. You have to fill your time with something else, and cops need to be busy. So go be busy. Be busy being better. Be busy being that CO. Be better being the CEO of your own company. Go be better. Don't get lazy and don't sit around the house. You will die in 5 years. I mean, we've all seen it, right? How many guys have we seen leave law enforcement, and 3 or 4 years later, you're like, hey, you remember Detective so-and-so? Well, he passed away last week. Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Right? Don't be that guy. So it's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, those are all good thoughts. I took some notes here while you were talking, and I kind of paraphrased 3 main points that you made. And that was, first, that, you need to overcome fear. Second, you got to learn to fail better. And third, that you need to seek out knowledge. And so I think those are all really good, excellent points. As far as the overcoming fear part, I think that's just such a huge part of it. Like you said, we get comfortable, right? We know that, I'm going to work these days. I'm going to get these hours. This is the paycheck I'm going to get in return. Here's what, my 401k or my pension plan is going to do. And one thing that I feel like has come really clear to me over the last few years since I left my law enforcement career is that retirement is kind of this dangling carrot that they put in front of you that keeps you just trudging along every day doing the thing that they want you to do. It could be a little bit of a false sense of security, right? Because when you look at inflation and all of those things, by the time you actually retire, you're really not left with a whole lot. And I talk to guys all the time that'll tell me, well, I've only got 5 more years left and I'm just trying to get my 20, or, I've just got 2 more years left. And so I came up with the saying that I've been telling people lately, and that's that what is the dangling carrot of retirement that justifies you wasting the best years of your life so that you can have this idea of comfort in the last years of your life. And I'm not saying that just applies to law enforcement. That applies to anything, because frankly, some of these guys I've talked to have phenomenal ideas, business ideas. And when I tell them you might actually be sacrificing what you could be making by sticking it out for another 5 years, if you're not happy, then what are you doing? Why are you staying here? And maybe it's not even a not happy thing, but if you have a phenomenal idea, get after it, just go for it. And you might actually earn more towards your retirement than you would by sticking around for 5 years.
Yeah, so where I live in El Paso, the PD here has its own retirement fund. It's not part of the state fund. And what happens is I run into a lot of guys that have retired from El Paso PD, and now they're working for the El Paso Independent School District as a cop. So I'm like,
right,
what happened here? And they're like, oh, well, I retired and I wanted to go back to work. But then I find that they're almost their entire retirement goes to pay a bill, or goes to pay for just, like basic living expenses. It's not much money there. And so they leave law enforcement to go back to law enforcement and work. I'm like, well, why don't you just stay where you were? I mean, it's right. If that's what you want to do. So yeah, I feel the pain. I've ran into some guys that are working totally outside law enforcement now that are retired, and they're like, well, I literally my pension goes to pay for my health care. Yeah, that's a great retirement. My pension pays for my health care. That's it.
And now I got to work in order to pay for the rest of my bills.
Now I got to work to pay for everything else. And I'm like, wow, man, that really sucks. But I think more as we see more and more debt accumulate in this country and more municipalities, falling victim to overspending. And I'm not knocking anybody or anything. I'm just saying that, you can see the writing on the wall.
It's the reality.
You see pensions dwindle a little bit. They don't keep up with inflation. And that being said, I would encourage every law enforcement officer, if they have an idea, to jump on it and do it, like you said, while they're young, because, I'm 52 years old now, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, if I do well and I, can retire at 65, that gives me, give me like 5-8 years, in a general average lifespan to enjoy something. So, I work like a dog my entire life, and then I die 2 years before I really make it. And then I don't get to spend anything on myself, and my family's still struggling. I haven't solved one problem for my family. So no, I would highly recommend that if you have the inkling to run a business, to make something better, fix a problem somewhere, and you're in law enforcement, then at least give it a shot. Maybe part-time if that's what it takes.
I agree. And it can be a little bit scary, right? I mean, there's uncertainty behind it. But I made this point last week because I decided kind of on a whim last week. I didn't really want to work from my home office. And so I just decided on a whim to go rent a cabin up in the mountains for a week. And that's where I was going to go work from. And I did. And as I'm sitting there one morning, drinking my coffee, looking out, at the mountains, I thought, you know what? Never would have gotten to do something like that before. Like, how cool is it that I get to do that? I work for myself. I make that decision. Right. And so there's uncertainty, but look, you fast forward. I mean, in a year's time, I exceeded and almost doubled my income from what I was making in law enforcement. And it was because I took that risk. But, I made the point that morning, I put a video on LinkedIn that I'm making this exact point that most people will choose unhappiness over uncertainty, because unhappiness, they at least know what they get out of that. But the uncertainty is scary. And so I guess I'll summarize that first point about overcoming fear by saying this, that I believe that action is the antidote to fear. And you just have to take action steps, right? And it can look a little bit scary not knowing, hey, how am I going to pay my bills when I try this thing out? But you know what? You'll land on your feet. You got to take action.
I absolutely agree with that. You got to take action. You have to seize opportunity. And that's where the courage thing comes in too. You got to have the courage to look at it and go, you know what? I'm going to take action. I'm going to make it or I'm not, but I'm going to give it a value and effort to do it. I would recommend there's some kind of parachute in there somewhere. If you have money in your retirement that you can lean on if you absolutely have to. I'm not saying go take it out. Just, if it's there and you absolutely have to, then at least you have something to parachute into. And, law enforcement officers are good at the end of the day of thinking things through. And I think with a little bit of opportunity and a little bit of nudging, we could see some really good things come out of law enforcement. I just love talking to law enforcement, period. I don't care where they're from or anything like that. And I can tell you there's really good people doing really good work that have a lot to offer the entire world. Once again, I'd encourage anyone in the audience, if you got an idea or you can solve a problem, then you have the makings of a business. Go get it and work for yourself. Yeah. It's the greatest thing in the world. I have a boss that works for me, but I'm high enough in the chain of command to where if I want to go to Hawaii and work from Hawaii, I can, which is nice. Right. So if I need to take time off, I can take time off. Now that goes into my 60 or 80 hours that I work already because, we're doing this to make money and we're solving problems for law enforcement. We're offering a great product. And on the flip side of that, we're doing pretty well with it. So, can't complain.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we'll talk about your second point here a little bit too about failing and how important that is. There's kind of a cycle, I think, in failure, because failure is good for us, right? And here's one of the kind of dichotomies that I believe cops are cut out to be exceptional entrepreneurs for this reason, but it's also kind of a double-edged sword. And that's that we don't accept failure. Like, we don't have an option for failure, right? And that's one of the things that makes us really good. But at the same time, we have it in our mind that I can't fail. I'm not allowed to fail. Well, in business, you kind of have to fail at things sometimes, right? You have to try things and then go, oh, well, crap, that didn't work, and I lost a little bit of money. I guess I won't do that again, or I'll do it another way. And so there's this cycle of kind of 3 points in a circle, where the first thing is acting on an idea, right? Doing it, right? And then either that idea is gonna either become a failure or a success. And then the third point in that circle is learning and adjusting. And whether the thing you tried, the idea turned into a failure or success, you're still going to learn and adjust it. And so it just kind of goes in this circle. Have an idea, fail or succeed, learn and adjust. And you just kind of do that over and over again. But you have to learn to accept that failure and work through that.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, I've had other businesses before, high-end test equipment selling and buying, which did okay for me. We made a little money, but it wasn't profitable to make a living on its own. So that was a learning failure. So it didn't do what I wanted to do, but it was successful. So I learned and I failed and I was successful all at one time. But it taught me a few things about business acumen, which means putting on a business hat versus a law enforcement hat for a change. So, failure is right. You have to do it. And my wife's dad, who was a great man, once said to me, you're not a man until you failed 3 times in 3 things. So, and because he had his own failures in life, and we all do. And for the ladies on this thing here, I'm not disparaging you. I'm just saying that he said it to me. So, so nothing male or female there. It's just, you got to fail 3 times to make it. And I remember talking to my dad one time when I was just a young man. I was in my early 30s, and having some personal issues and some failures that I had. I looked at my dad and I said, "Dad, I don't know if I can fail one more time. This has taken a lot out of me for failure." And he said, "Son, you haven't really failed yet." He said, "You still got a house, you got a family, you have a good job, you haven't failed. You're just going through some troubled times. So don't confuse failure with some trouble, with some everyday problems that most people have. Failures, when you have a failure, you'll know you have a failure. And get yourself up, brush yourself off, and go again." Failures are learning experiences. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, you've really just got to respond to it with perseverance rather than rejection, right? I think those are the 2 sides of the coin. People either respond to failure with rejection and they shut down and go, "Well, I'm not going to do that again. That's the last time I try that thing." Or we respond to it with perseverance and we say, "Well, okay, that didn't work quite the way I planned it out to be, but I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to try it a different way, or I'm just going to, maybe that just wasn't such a great idea and I'm not going to try that one." But yeah, I mean, the response is paramount.
Yeah. It's like my son the other day, we were playing chess, and he says, "Dad, I love playing chess. Either I win or I learn." It's that simple. Either you succeed or you learn. It's a win-win across the board. So,
absolutely. I love it. Yeah. There's no sore losers if you don't look at it as losing, right? It's
that's right.
You either win or you learn.
That's right. So
yeah,
good thoughts.
Love
right?
it. Yep. Well, and to your third point, seeking knowledge. I mean, I think that's a pretty straightforward one, right? You just got to, align yourself. There's a saying that you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? And so if you're trying to learn, you're trying to grow, then you have to surround yourself with people and resources that are going to help amplify what it is that you're trying to learn. And you become the average of those things. So that's right. No, that's a great point.
Yeah, that's right. We say that about our chain of command a lot of times. We say, if you have a great supervisor, take some things from that supervisor and put them in your own toolbox. And if you have a poor supervisor that maybe doesn't always fit your needs or whatever, take some things from that person's style there and put it in your toolbox. Even if it's things you never do, you say to yourself, "I'll never do that again. I'll never do that to anyone." That's still growing you, because you've taken an average of these 2 people. One may be great, one may not be so great, but you combine them together and you've taken the best things from both of them. And that's a great way to move forward.
Yeah. Well, so give me just a closing thought then on that topic, on talking about copreneurship, if you will.
So, I guess I'll go back to my first statement. It takes courage. It takes courage. It takes a little commitment. Don't be afraid to fail. And, at the end of the day, cops don't like change. I've been there. Look at the old MDT when they first come in. The cops like, no, I'm going to write it down. You got a computer right here next to you. It took a while. Cops don't like change, and, courage. You have the courage to go to calls all day long. You have the courage to manage your life if you want to be in business, to go out and do it.
Yeah. Excellent. So just got a couple of minutes to wrap up here. Anything new on the horizon to expect from Blockchain Intelligence Group, and what's coming for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so we're expanding our tools out to uncover more in the DeFi index space. So we'll be doing that. That'll be coming in. I'm really wanting to get out there and talk to more law enforcement officers. So like we have a law enforcement event planned in Nassau County, New York, that's going to be like 3 days long, that I'll be there talking about crypto for at least 8 hours. And we want to do that more often. So we want to start putting on some events. So if anyone in your audience would like to, get a hold of us and talk about putting on a money laundering, asset forfeiture, cryptocurrency type event over a couple of days, where we'll offer our cryptocurrency certified investigator certification to whoever wants to take the test and pass it at the end of the 3 days. We're happy to do that. So please let us know. And also, we have a cryptocurrency investigator training program. It's under Cryptocurrency Investigator Training Program. Yeah, CCI. That's how it is. That's the URL, actually.
Okay.
Check it out. And, if you're in law enforcement or whatever, check it out. Send me a message or whatever, and we'll try to get you through it. It is a paid course, but we've had hundreds and hundreds of people take it. And they've gotten the ground floor investigative knowledge they need to jump into a case and feel like they know what's going on. So that's our point. And then you'll see my smiling face here talking as well. But we can skip that part.
Nice. Well, those are some excellent opportunities, offers there. And I'll tell you what, if I was still an administrator, I would absolutely be reaching out to you myself right now and saying, yeah, come on out and do that. I know it's such a huge thing. There is a lot of opportunity to solve some cases. If you just give yourself the knowledge on how to do it as it relates to digital currency, and it's becoming a much bigger thing. And unfortunately, the bad guys out there know that we're not prepared in large part for these types of investigations, and therefore that they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, they're running at will right now, and that's got to stop.
Yeah. All right. Well, how do people connect with you, Robert?
Well, they can go to blockchaingroup.io, which is our website, and there's a submission page. You can just say, please forward to Rob. Or you can get a hold of me personally at robert.whitaker@blockchaingroup.io. I know people say don't give your email out, but I love talking to law enforcement people. So shoot me an email. That's robert.whitaker@blockchaingroup.io. And it'll come right to my mailbox, and I'll be glad to get back with you, and we'll answer whatever questions you have.
All right. Well, as always, we'll put all the links to everything that we discussed here in the show on the episode notes page. So you can go to psi.chat to check that out. And thanks again, Robert, for coming back on the show. It's awesome having you.
And don't forget to read the book. Thanks, Adam.
Yes. Yeah, he's showing. For those of you listening and not watching on YouTube, I sent Robert a copy of Business Made Simple, as I've sent to many of you. And if there's anybody listening that I haven't sent that book to, or the Marketing Made Simple book, I swear by those books. They're absolute roadmap to success for your marketing and your business. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, shoot me a DM. I'll absolutely happily send you a book. I've got 2 more cases just sitting on the floor in my office here, and heck, I'll buy more cases if I have to, man. I want to put this in the hands of as many copreneurs or would-be copreneurs as possible. So, and of course, you can always go check out leotoceo.com too, where we've got a group of copreneurs there that we're all helping each other out. So, Robert,
great,
awesome having you on again, man.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Adam. Anytime, let me know. I love talking with you and talking to the audience. I can talk crypto all day, and I can talk about being cops all day. So anytime, brother, let me know.
All right, awesome. We'll reach out to Robert if you want to learn a little bit more, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Hey, thanks for sticking around till the end of the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review at psi.chat/review. I would love to hear your feedback, and it will also help other public safety innovators like yourself find the show. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode. Just go to psi.chat, click on episodes, and search this episode number, and you'll find all the links, descriptions, and resources we talked about. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and you'll be notified when the next episode is live. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.